notice me till I pick that, camera up, and maybe the lens got light reflection from the sun and onto it, and that's how it notices. But when the thing took off running after us, I'm not going to sit there and take a picture, because when you see something that huge and that scary sound, you only have one thought in your mind, and that's get out of there. You don't want to be there. So if anybody out there says, I would take a picture and then run, no, you wouldn't. No, not with these cell phones, because the time you got it linked up to take a picture, it probably would already be eating your head. I don't know.
Right. I mean, I'm there. I mean, that's exactly what I always tell people, even though I haven't encountered one. I have a feeling that I would, the flight or fight would kick in, and I'd do the flight. So thank you for proving my point.
Well, yeah. Anybody, it gets a lot of pictures of Bigfoot or UFOs. Have you ever noticed none of them are in focus? Now, I don't know if it's because they really don't have an image of the monster or the UFO. But, the average person, you got one thing. When you run across something, your adrenaline kicks in. You're scared. And you only have one thought in your mind. And that was to run away. And that's what I did. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jason, I urinated in my pants. That was probably the first time since I was in first grade or kindergarten. I mean, that's how scared I was.
Right, which is understandable. And I'm a journalist. I mean, I teach journalism. I've taught journalism for 14 years at a university. But before that, I was a working print journalist, and there were many times to where the scanner would go off. Shots fired, scene not secured. Then I'd grab my camera and notebook. I'd be out the door, and sometimes I'd get there before the police got there. If it was close to the newsroom, and that never scared me. My adrenaline kicked in. Man, I wanted to get that picture. I cannot say it would be the same situation if I were out in the woods and encountered a Bigfoot. I don't think that would kick in. The adrenaline would kick in, but it would be run.
Yeah, that's our instinct. I mean, if you're prepared, to see something and you're going there and you're going to see it, that's one thing. If you're going there and you're not even thinking Bigfoot, or you're not thinking about some type of hairy creature at all, and you're there just to take pictures of, what was left of the internment camp, for example, and then you see something that huge, and I'll tell you, the smell is, I can tell you when it was near the car, it smelled between urine and musk and something else that was so bad, it actually burnt my throat. That's how pungent it was.
Well, to give the big hairy guy a little bit of a break, the urine smell might have been from you.
No, possible, but it could have added to it, Anyway,
I'm not making light of your situation, because I'm sure that exact thing would happen to me.
Well, I think it would happen to a majority of people,
Yeah.
And again, maybe some of the people who didn't run away, maybe they didn't have to run away because there was nothing left of them to run away with.
Right. I out of all the reports that I've read and all the people I've interviewed who've had encounters with Bigfoot, I seriously don't think that that Sasquatch is the big big friendly giant of the woods. I seriously don't think that, because there have been too many aggressive reports of Bigfoot when they see somebody, and I think they're probably extremely dangerous.
Well, I can tell you this: I've had guests on my show that say that Bigfoot give off warm, friendly orbs, and they telepathically, talk to humans. Well, I didn't have anything like that happen to me, Jason. I will tell you this: when it ran between 2 legs and 4 legs. I did turn around to see that. Now, I had Ed Romans on my show a year and a half or so ago. Now, in Canada, he's like one of the top folk singers. And he lives out, near a major forest in British Columbia on a farm. And he loves taking his dog going this path into the woods. And, he actually heard my show and wanted to be on my show to talk about his encounter of a Bigfoot. And we talked a great length before he went on the air. And the first thing he said is when he saw this thing about 1,000 feet away, and it spotted him, it came running after him. One thing I noticed, what it matched with what I saw. He said it ran between 2 legs and 4 legs, 2 legs and 4 legs, and let out a lot of screams. So that kind of matches with what I saw.
Well, and there's, getting into Bigfoot, there are so many differences between the types of Bigfoot, not just, around the world, but, in North America. There are so many different, because we've got the one from your area, from your neck of the woods. We've got the skunk ape. We've got one that's more chimpanzee-like out east. We've got the really thin ones in New Hampshire, and then we get the ones that are exactly the same description, except this one's face is human-like and this one's face looks more like a gorilla. What all do we have? We can't just say that there's Bigfoot, because I think that there's a number of different creatures that fall into that category. But all of them are extremely, extremely aggressive.
Yeah.
One of the things. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And the only people that seem to go the opposite are ones that actually never encountered one. I had a guess. Honestly, it was going to be on my show, and after I actually really talked to him in length before he actually got on the air, he claimed he was a Bigfoot hunter for like over 20 some years. And when it came down to it, I asked, okay, well, what woods did you go to? What states and all this? And his answer was, well, no, I've never went out and actually looked for one. I just researched it on the internet. Well, that doesn't make him a Bigfoot hunter. That doesn't.
Well, and that's, a lot of, put in quote marks, experts in various fields, call themselves experts because, they look things up on the internet. I look things up on the internet too. Just, recipes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't call myself a chef.
Oh, yeah. Well, some people do, and that's what the bad part is.
Yeah, it's made, and it's made a lot of people who don't really know what they're talking about, really, not necessarily popular, but exposed. The thing about, again, I was going about different types of Bigfoot, even the ones that are more described as human-like. The Native Americans for time immemorial have said that these creatures exist, but they consider them human. Another tribe of just big hairy humans. But even then, these creatures still steal children and steal women and will eat them. So even the human ones are pretty nasty and aggressive.
Yeah, they're cannibals.
Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, there's dead air. Yeah, I don't know what my exact thought is on Bigfoot. I've always been it's a North American ape. I don't necessarily think that anymore, although it could be. I'm a skeptic by nature, and as a journalist, I have to be, and as a journalist, I also have to tell stories, which is what I've done in my book, Chasing American Monsters. I've told the stories of these monsters and the people who've encountered them. But thinking about Bigfoot, you mentioned before you've had guests that have talked about telepathic communication with Bigfoot, and there are people who think Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature, and since there have been Bigfoot encounters in the same area that have had UFO encounters that they're from outer space. Well, that's kind of the popular conjecture. Any of those explanations, I'm still kind of in the old school. It's a flesh and blood creature camp, because we don't know that anybody can travel between dimensions. We don't know that there are UFO. There are UFOs. I'm positive I've seen something that I can't explain, but these are not hard scientific facts. So I hate it when somebody uses, Bigfoot and something telepathy or interdimensional travel to explain Bigfoot. It really bothers me. I want him to be proven not a flesh and blood creature before we take that step. And that being said, there's been some DNA analysis of alleged Bigfoot samples. There was Dr. Melba Ketchum had some analyzed. There was a researcher, I can't remember his name, in Alberta, Canada, who had what he thought was Bigfoot sample analyzed. And there's a British professor who had, I think he's Cambridge maybe or Oxford, one of the two, who had DNA analyzed from the alleged grandson of a Russian Alma named Zana. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that case, but in all of these cases, the DNA came back human, but there was some variation to it. There was an anomaly in the DNA, not enough to where it wouldn't be human, but just enough to where there was something odd about it. So, I'm kind of starting to think, Bigfoot's definitely out there, but he's probably, a member of our family tree that we don't invite, to family gatherings.
Oh, that's so true. And one thing, you're not going to go to a local campground and really maybe stumble on one. I don't know. We were out again, middle of nowhere up in the Canadian Rockies, and that's why they put this internment camp there. For if any prisoners got away, they're not going to go anywhere, other than probably get lost in the woods. That, what I seen, I don't know what it is. I don't know what to classify it. So I can't, I got in trouble here a couple months ago when I said, I hate to say this, but maybe someday one might have to be shot or something and the body brought back in, or part of the body be brought in, just to prove that they do exist and what they are. And then at that point, the government or whatever can make some type of laws, protecting them and what have you. But I think we need more proof than this footprints.
No, and we do. Even though with all of the evidence that we've had, all the eyewitness reports, a lot of the plaster casts that have been set, the dermal ridges on them are, they show that it's a hominid. The Skookum cast that got, its butt, the Bigfoot's butt print and thigh and ankle, it got that. I mean, this is enough evidence to put somebody away for a crime.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it's not really considered evidence. But I mean, I agree with you. I would hate to see one of these creatures, and if there are any, of these cryptids I've written about that I really think exist, I think it's probably Bigfoot. And I would hate to see one killed, but if that's what it's going to take to prove that this, Bigfoot exists, I mean, it's going to have to happen. If one's got to die, I'd prefer it be hit by a truck and be a total accident than somebody going out and murdering it. But, I agree with you. That's going to have to happen.
Well, one thing I think about all these poor hunters that went out hunting, for deer or bear or whatever, right? And all of a sudden, no one's heard anything of them. Now, is it possible they ran into a creature and they weren't able to, get back to their vehicle to get out? Because this thing went after us, showed aggression. So, I mean, I got a funny feeling if the car wasn't where it was at, I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Right. Well, and David Paulides, are you familiar with David's work?
Oh, yeah. I've been trying to get him on the show.
Yeah, the Missing 411. Yeah, a number of those, not all of them, but a number of those sound like, wow, I mean, that person could be out in the woods and, yeah, the Sasquatch just got them. And you mentioned hunters, and he had an entire book on hunters disappearing. And, that's what came to my head. Not all these cases, but I'm sure some of them, that has been the case. What do you think? And this was in North Carolina back in December, maybe, or maybe it was January. I think it might have been December. Of a boy, he was like 3 or 4, who disappeared, and the temperature had gotten down. It snowed, and the temperature got down in the low 30s, and he was gone for like 3 days. and